Close your eyes for a second. Imagine yourself in a roaring baseball stadium. The crowd is electric. The air smells of hot dogs, popcorn, and hope. The Chicago Cubs are on the field, and a young third baseman steps up to the plate. The pitcher winds up, the ball leaves his hand, and in a fraction of a second, life will never be the same again. This is not just another story about baseball. This is a story about pain, courage, heartbreak, and immortality. This is the story of Ron Santo. Ronald Edward Santo was not born with a golden spoon. He was born with a fight inside him. Growing up in Seattle in the 1940s, Ron was just another kid with a dream to make it big in baseball. But what no one knew, what even his closest friends didn't know, was that Ron was already battling an invisible enemy: type 1 diabetes. At that time, diabetes was almost a death sentence for athletes. Doctors warned him that his career might not last, that his body might break down, that he could never endure the stress of professional sports. But Santo made a decision as a teenager. I will never let diabetes define me. Baseball will define me. And so he fought, through the weakness, through the injections, through the uncertainty. By 1960, his fight paid off. Ron Santo made his major league debut for the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs were not a glamorous team then. Decades of frustration hung over Wrigley Field. Fans were loyal, but victories were rare. Yet in Ron Santo, Chicago saw something different. He wasn't just talented, he was fiery, passionate, and unbreakable. Within a few years, he became the heartbeat of the team. His glove at third base was sharp, his bat was powerful, and his spirit lit up Wrigley Field. For fans, Ron Santo was not just a player, he was hope in pinstripes. And then came the day that changed everything. It was August of 1966. The Cubs were playing the New York Mets. On the mound stood Jack Fisher, a pitcher known for his speed and control. At the plate stood Ron Santo, the fearless warrior of Chicago. The count was tight. The crowd leaned forward. Fisher wound up, released the pitch, and in an instant, the stadium gasped. The ball, traveling at nearly 90 miles per hour, did not break inside, did not move outside. It went straight, like a guided missile, into Ron Santo's face. The sound was horrifying. A sharp, sickening crack echoed through the stadium. Santo collapsed instantly, motionless, his bat flying one way, his body another. For a moment, silence swallowed Wrigley Field. Tens of thousands of fans froze. Was he alive? Players rushed, trainers sprinted, fans covered their mouths. The broadcasters, normally quick with words, stuttered into silence. Ron Santo, the fearless heart of the Cubs, lay unconscious on the dirt. Santo was rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis was grim: a fractured cheekbone, a dislocated jaw, and severe facial trauma. Doctors feared permanent vision loss. They feared brain damage. They feared his career was over. For days, fans waited for updates. Newspapers ran headlines like, "Cubs stars future in doubt." In Chicago, it felt like hope itself had been hit by that pitch. But Ron Santo was no ordinary man. While others would have given up, Santo had already spent his life fighting invisible battles. To him, this was just another opponent. Doctors recommended months of rest. Santo took only weeks. When he returned to the field, something was different. He wore a special modified helmet, a helmet with an extra protective ear flap, custom built after his injury. At first, people laughed. Other players joked. Fans thought it looked strange. But Ron Santo knew it wasn't about looks. It was about survival. That helmet became a symbol, Years later, it would inspire the mandatory ear flap helmets we see in baseball today. Ron Santo didn't just save himself, he saved countless future players. And as for his performance, he didn't slow down. He came back swinging harder than ever. He hit, he fielded, he cheered louder than before. Every time Ron Santo stepped into the batter's box, fans stood taller. He had stared death in the face and returned stronger. But Santo's battles weren't only on the field. Behind the scenes, he was still quietly fighting his lifelong enemy, diabetes. In the 1960s and 70s, diabetes treatment was primitive. No advanced monitoring, no insulin pumps, no safety nets. Every day was a gamble. A missed dose, a wrong meal, an adrenaline surge on the field, any of it could trigger collapse. And yet, Santo kept going. He played over 2,000 games in his career. He hit over 300 home runs. He won 5 Gold Gloves. He made 9 All-Star appearances. All while silently battling a disease that could have ended him at any moment. Fans never saw the injections. They never saw the nights of dizziness. They never saw the quiet suffering. What they saw was a man smiling, fighting, and carrying the Cubs on his shoulders. After his playing career ended in 1974, Santo faced a new chapter of battles. Diabetes, relentless as ever, began to take its toll. His legs weakened, circulation failed. Eventually, doctors had no choice but to amputate, first one leg, then the other. Imagine that. The legs that once dove into the dirt at third base. The legs that sprinted around the bases of Wrigley Field. The legs that carried the hopes of a city. Gone. But Santo? He refused to stop living. Instead of fading away, he reinvented himself. Ron Santo returned to Wrigley Field, not as a player, but as a broadcaster. Fans would tune into Cubs radio just to hear his voice. And oh, what a voice it was. He wasn't polished, he wasn't scripted, but he was real. When the Cubs hit a home run, Santo would yell like a kid. When they made an error, his groans echoed with genuine heartbreak. Listening to him was like sitting next to your best friend at the game. For a city that had suffered decades of baseball heartbreak, Ron Santo's voice was comfort. He was no longer just the heart of the Cubs on the field. He was their soul in the booth. And yet, despite everything he gave to the game, Ron Santo never got the recognition he deserved in his lifetime. Year after year, the Hall of Fame ballots came. Year after year, he was denied. Fans screamed, teammates protested, broadcasters pleaded. How could the Hall ignore a man with Santo's stats, his impact, his courage? But the voters turned their backs. And then, in December 2010, Ron Santo passed away. He never heard his name called. He never stood on that stage. But in 2012, 2 years too late, the Hall of Fame finally inducted him. The city of Chicago wept. His family wept. Fans filled the streets. It was justice. But justice delayed. Today, outside Wrigley Field, a bronze statue of Ron Santo stands tall. Kids climb on it. Fans take pictures with it. Generations stop and tell stories about him. Every time a batter wears a helmet with a protective ear flap, they unknowingly carry Ron Santo's legacy. Every time a Cubs broadcaster shouts with unfiltered passion, they echo his voice. Every time a diabetic child dreams of becoming an athlete, they walk the path Santo carved. Ron Santo didn't just play baseball, he transformed it. He didn't just fight battles, he won them for everyone else. So what do we learn from Ron Santo's story? That pain is temporary, but courage is forever. That a single pitch can break a face, but it cannot break a spirit. that true legends live not in the trophies they win, but in the hearts they touch. If Ron Santo's story touched your heart today, do one thing for him. Share this video, spread his legacy, and in the comments, write just 3 words. Legends never die. Because the truth is, Ron Santo never died. He lives in every Cubs fan, every player who puts on a helmet, and every dreamer who refuses to give up. Ron Santo, a legend, a fighter, an immortal.